We'd like to speak once again about the Zika virus and the current information on it and what we're doing and what people in the city and the state of New York should be doing to protect themselves and their neighbors. Zika has not been found in New York State as a mosquito-borne communicated illness. This is an illness that by mosquito transmission is primarily in the southern part of the country. And Dr. Zucker will explain the different types of mosquitoes and which one carries it and which one doesn't. But it is something that we want to make sure that we are prepared for, because we've been through enough of these situations where the information starts in one place and then the information migrates, and the best way to handle a crisis is to prevent it. And I feel very strongly a situation like this, the best course is always to get ahead of it. So that's exactly what we've been doing. We've been working on it for months. As the season is heating up, we are also increasing our efforts twofold. First, the Department of Health is going to work with every state agency to do what they need to do in that agency's portfolio to stem the possible spread of Zika, which would be stopping the proliferation of mosquitoes. So, for example, with the MTA, this morning there's a common occurrence in the MTA where you have standing puddles of water on the tracks. That could be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. We visited a state park which had also standing water puddling, and that could be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. And literally the Department of Health will go agency by agency, looking at their specific portfolio and making sure they're doing everything they should be doing. We also want homeowners to be diligent and homeowners to take action. The state will make available at no cost looks like a small donut, a insect repellent, a prevention larvicide that we will give to the homeowner. You drop it in standing water, and for 30 days it will kill or stop any mosquitoes from breeding in that water. Why is that important? Well, it's important for Zika and beyond Zika, West Nile virus, and to the extent we have fewer mosquitoes around your home, it's a better experience in any event. The good news is this mosquito only travels about 200 yards from its birthplace, which is often standing water. So it's a circumference of 200 yards. And if you take care of your property and your surroundings, that greatly reduces the chance that you're going to get infected or bitten by these mosquitoes. So it's actually something that homeowners can make a real difference about. And again, with the number that we'll give out today, phone number you give out today, you call the phone number, 888-364-4723, 888-364-4723, and we will send free of charge to a homeowner a packet. If the homeowners are doing what they need to do, we've been speaking with the commercial property owners who are aware of it, and then the government facilities are ahead of it, then we're doing everything we can do. And that is the goal. With that, let me turn it over to Dr. Zucker, our health commissioner, who will give you more information.
Thank you, Governor. Today, as you know, we're here to talk about eliminating a very dangerous nuisance, which are mosquitoes, and taking protective actions so that you don't get bitten as well. As I'm sure everyone knows, Zika has become a public health emergency of international concern. The virus is transmitted by the Aedes aegypti mosquito, and as we've heard, has been linked to microcephaly, which is a birth defect in babies. So just this week, it's been reported that Zika is being spread by mosquitoes in a neighborhood in Miami, Florida. So we have a very close working relationship with the Centers for Disease Control and New York State remains in contact to receive any updates regarding that and regarding any travel advisories to the affected areas, both in Florida but also around the world. And while Zika's impact has been hardest hit in the countries in South and Central America, New York is truly hardly immune. As of this morning, we had 537 positive cases confirmed, 123 of those outside of New York City and 414 in New York City. The cases have been related to travel, all but 5, and those 5 cases were sexually transmitted cases. The department has received more than 6,700 specimens from individuals for testing at our Wadsworth lab up in Albany. And to make sure specimens are properly collected and shipped, we have recruited 125 Zika collection sites across the state, and that's in every county. Since the 1st of February, New York has been aggressively addressing Zika. We've hosted many dozens, for that matter, of educational webinars. We've targeted them to the health professionals who particularly need that, for example, obstetrics and gynecologists, midwives, family practitioners, emergency preparedness partners that we have, as well as all the local health departments. We set up, as the governor mentioned, a Zika information hotline, 888-364-4723, and we've taken about 4,000 or so calls so far from the public and from local health departments as well. We've also activated a statewide data system, which is called the Clinical Data Management System. And what that does is it's used by the local health departments to evaluate individuals with potential exposure to Zika virus. And that will help facilitate their specimen collection for testing and activate what's necessary. And as I'm sure you recall, Governor Cuomo took the aggressive action in mid-March when he announced the state's 6-point Zika action plan. At that point, just to refresh your memories on this, it required that every county develop its own action plan, which included the measures for human disease surveillance and education regarding the risks of human exposure, the risks of mosquito-borne diseases, and mosquito mitigation efforts. And since then, we have reviewed all of the 58 local Zika action plans, including New York City, and approved them. The department has also received 100,000 larvicide dunks, and they contain bacteria that's toxic to the mosquito larvae, so they'll die before they get to adulthood. But it's not a chemical, and so it doesn't harm or hurt other wildlife, including those who have dogs or cats on their property. Each dunk will last, and here's a picture of the dunks that we have. So each dunk will last 30 days, and it can treat about 100 square feet of water. We have also been mailing the larvicide starter kits, these kits, to any resident, as the governor mentioned, who call the hotline. The dunks will come with the instructions right there about how to use them. And so far, we have distributed them to all those who have asked for them. We've been engaged in mosquito trapping, and we are continuing to do that. We are bringing on more staff to manage these traps as part of an enhanced mosquito collection surveillance in the downstate area, because, as we know, the downstate area is where the albopictus mosquito, which is the cousin of the mosquito that we're concerned about down in Florida and Central and South America, primarily has its habitat. We also have been targeting pregnant patients who may travel to affected areas. So let me tell you what's in the pregnancy kits that we have. So there's a Zika prevention kit for pregnant women. So in here are insect repellent. There are also condoms, larvicide, as well as educational material for all those who want to know more about Zika. And we've been offering these to the individuals at federal qualified health centers, but also to family planning programs, also to WIC programs, as well as the perinatal centers. In addition, the department is set up with the county's rapid response teams, especially in the downstate area. And these teams will be deployed as soon as there's a case of local transmission. And the most visible part of our six-step plan is the public awareness campaign, which started in May, and I'm sure you're all familiar with it because you've probably seen the digital media campaign we've done, as well as looked on the bus banners and the subway cars and the ferry signs to build public awareness. In a lot of ways, the key thing here is to emphasize the issues of safety and also the concerns that we have about pregnant women. The downstate campaign, which is focusing on mosquito awareness and habitat mitigation efforts, involves the issues of how to remove standing water. So all these measures taken together will help protect New Yorkers and from the potentially devastating effects of Zika. And I can't stress enough the fact that this is all about prevention. And as with many and pretty much most of our public health issues, prevention is key, and that's what we're doing here today. It is true that we are in the middle of a global epidemic regarding this, and yes, it is true that we still have more to learn about the virus. But here in New York, we are aggressively fighting back, and we're working hard to protect all the residents here. So I thank the governor, and I thank all of you for being here today on this. Thank you.
We'll now hear from Tom Prendergast, who's the chairman and CEO of the MTA. Tom and Dr. Zucker and myself were in the visited a train station today to talk about this issue. But let me turn it over to Tom Prendergast.
Mosquito-borne viruses that have been a concern to the MTA since the West Nile virus over 10 years ago. With the increased and heightened sensitivity with the Zika virus, it's important, like the governor and Dr. Zucker said, that we take preventative measures to be able to deal with that potential threat. 6 million people use the subway on a daily basis, and they use our stations. And the tunnel system does see regular water, 13 million gallons of water a day. If the water is moving, goes down drains, and pumped out of the system, it's not a problem. So the first action we need to take from a preventative nature is to make sure there is no standing or pooled water. So we're redoubling our efforts to make sure drains are clear in the track trough areas so water can drain, in the station vent bays so water can drain as well. If we get standing water, we'll deploy resources to be able to clear those drains and get them done. And with the protocol that was established by Dr. Zucker in terms of we have a contractor on board who can apply a larvicide to those locations where we have standing water. So the primary action being taken is prevention in the way of making sure water flows through the system and doesn't stand, and that where it does pool, that we apply the larvicide to be able to control the population growth of the mosquitoes.
Great. Thank you very much. Questions?
Governor, can you comment on the resignation of Bratton that's just happened now as we're going through events for today? Obviously, there's been a lot of high-profile people leaving the Los administration. I wonder if you can speculate or have any insight on that.
On Commissioner Bratton's leaving on a personal level, Zach, I was surprised and sad, frankly. I know him a long time. He is a great public servant, great police commissioner. And he brought credibility to the position as well as competence. And policing in New York City is probably the single most important function for the city administration. So he did a great job, and people believe that he did a great job. And both of those are important. We've been blessed in this city when you think we had Commissioner Bratton, we had Commissioner Ray Kelly. Ray Kelly and Commissioner Bratton are probably the Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig of police commissioners, right? I mean, these were really two of the best. And people can argue between Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig who they like better, but there's no doubt that Kelly and Bratton really were two of the finest. And as such, they are irreplaceable because they walked in the door with tremendous credibility. So that was my reaction. I don't know the why, the how, any palace intrigue on the issue. But you asked for my reaction, that's it.
Governor, can you talk about what moral responsibility you feel homeowners have to address the issue of the standing water?
Moral responsibility, I don't get into moral responsibility. Civic duty, being a good neighbor, acting in their own self-interest, that's all wrapped in here, right? If you put Zika virus aside, you put West Nile virus aside, you don't want to get bitten by mosquitoes, right? That's a sort of the one in this changing world that has stayed true now for 100 years. And we're making it very easy for you to basically police your property, and we'll give you the materials to actually prevent the mosquitoes from germinating. So I think it's in their interest. And as far as being a good neighbor, it helps. 200-yard circumference. And if everyone did it, it would make a really significant difference.
Governor, can we get your reaction to the appointment of Chief Jim O'Neill as the next commissioner?
Yeah, I don't have no personal familiarity with the chief, so I wish him well.
Your spokesman said earlier this week that when the mayor...
I'm sorry, can you, Eric, I didn't hear what you said.
Sure. Your spokesman said earlier this week that when the mayor is acting competently and non-politically, the governor supports them. And when the mayor's administration is acting incompetently and politically, the governor has to step in and protect the residents of New York City. Can you provide some examples of situations in which you believe the mayor is acting incompetently?
Well, I think the statement is perfectly clear. I represent the people of the city of New York. I represent the people of the city of Buffalo. I represent the people of Montauk Point, right? I represent people all across the state. I happen to be a lifelong New York City boy who now represents the people of the state. If a mayor, any mayor, is not doing his job, either because for one reason or another, or can't do their job for one reason or another, or is playing politics with an issue for one reason or another, I'm not going to allow the people to suffer and pay the price.
Sure, but, sorry. I was just wondering what you're referring to, which situations would you...
It's a general statement. There's no I wasn't referring to any specific. You have something called the Constitution. You have the state laws, and you have federal, state, and local government. Cities are creatures of state law. And if the local government isn't doing what it needs to do, it's the responsibility of the state government to then step in. If the state government isn't doing what it's supposed to do, then the federal government steps in, right? That is Civics 101 and Government 101. And that's what my statement was all about. It's what is the role of the governor? Run the whole state. And if there's a situation where local government is not doing its job for one reason or another, then you step in. Otherwise, would you sit back and let people suffer? Would you sit back and let people be part of a political game or some politician's ploy because they're overly political? Of course not. Then I wouldn't be doing my job.
Governor, advice on the people heading to the Olympics, perhaps, as it relates to the Zika virus? And do you want to say to those people who are going into ground zero of Zika?
Well, that I'll turn to the good doctor because that's above my pay grade.
I think there's two parts to this. One is the issue of taking all the necessary precautions. So if you're going down there, you know, insect repellent and wearing long sleeves and also remember this is a mosquito that usually prefers to be out during the day. So just be aware of that. And then the other part is that you know, there are advisories that if you're pregnant not to travel to Zika affected areas, and I would support that strongly.
Question for either the commissioner or the governor. At this point, what do we think the likelihood is that these specific Zika mosquitoes will travel to New York? And are you operating under the assumption that this is going to happen at some point?
I'll let the doctor go first because I'm curious what he says.
So what? Thank you, Governor. So the thing is that we know that there's two types of mosquitoes. That the Aedes mosquitoes. There's the Aedes aegypti and the Aedes albopictus mosquito. There is no data to show that the albopictus mosquito transmits Zika. It's sort of like the cousin of the Egyptian mosquito. We're taking all the necessary precautions to be ahead of the game, and that's why we've done what we did today and what we've been doing for the last X number of months. There isn't these. The data shows that the Egyptian mosquito is in the southern area, and the albopictus mosquito a little bit further north, and it's into the city, the albopictus mosquito. But we have not had, having looked at thousands and thousands of mosquitoes, any albopictus mosquito that carries Zika.
But how did the mosquito get to Miami? And
Well,
how does it travel?
But, well, the different areas have different types of mosquitoes that are sort of inhabit that area. So the Egyptine mosquito is in that area, and the Egyptine mosquito is the one that transmits the Zika virus. The Egyptine mosquito is not in the New York area, and so therefore the only one that is in the area is its cousin, and we have not seen that cousin can actually transmit it. So it would have to be that the albopictus mosquito transmits it, and then we'd be concerned. But because we want to be proactive on this, we're taking precautions just in case that would ever happen.
Okay, now that was the scientific professional doctor's answer. Here is the inverse of that. I'm worried about the cousin. The doctor is exactly right. The Egyptine mosquito is the one that predominantly carries the virus. It is predominantly down south. However, I believe due diligence, responsible leadership says, take every precaution you need to take now, just in case that Egyptine mosquito gets on an airplane and with his girlfriend, and they fly to New York, and they make a new family of Egyptine mosquitoes, or the cousin, who now is the innocent cousin, actually isn't so innocent, and that mosquito can also carry it. So we want to make sure that we are prepared and that we are ahead of it. We say all the time in terms of crisis intervention and dealing with a crisis, you always want to be in front of it rather than behind.
But kidding aside, can that Egyptine mosquito migrate north? Can you take it with you in your luggage on a plane and bring it to New York? Is that?
We have not found it. When the doctor says we are testing just for that point. And we have been testing all throughout the state, thousands and thousands and thousands of tests, and we found none.
Governor, as you know, there's great interest in this Pokemon craze. I understand that you took some executive action. If you just talk a little bit about that, and why that needed to be done immediately, not originally from legislation, I guess how.
Well, the Pokemon is a great game, apparently, and it's got a great following. I don't play a lot of Pokemon. I have my own version, but that's a different story. But it's attracted all sorts of attention. And it seems innocent and fun, and it's a game. Yeah, there are people out there. I can tell you, as having been a former district attorney, assistant district attorney, former attorney general, there are people who will seize on every opportunity to exploit a vulnerability. And there are people who are predators, and there are people who are sexual predators. And you look at the Pokemon game, you say, oh, how much fun this is. A sexual predator could look at this Pokemon game and say, what a great way to get kids to come to my house. What a great way to get kids to come to the park next door. And I will guarantee you there are sexual predators who have had that thought. We have enough experience dealing with them that we know they are looking for vehicles of transmission, if you will, or connectivity to young people. And this could be just that. And that's why we put out the notices that we did. And I'm sure the company is going to be cooperative. But people could take a game as seemingly innocent as Pokemon and actually use it to lure children.
All right, guys, last question.
A question for the Commissioner. Dr. Bratton from the CDC said that they're finding that some of the mosquitoes are actually resistant to these insecticides that they're using. In fact, some of the folks in Florida are saying that the chemicals that they're using to kill the Egyptine mosquitoes, they're not very effective. Do you know if we're using the same chemicals here? Are you talking to them about how effective or ineffective?
We are speaking with the CDC, as I mentioned. The larvicides that we're using are very effective against the albopictus that we are monitoring for, and the other data we will follow up.
How much does this program cost? Prevention program.
This is tied. What the department does is always looking at all issues of prevention. So this is tied into our overall prevention initiatives that we have. So it's hard to tease out an amount. The team that's out there is always monitoring for things we always monitor, even for West Nile virus. So this is just an extrapolation of it, but it's more aggressive.
There's no special allocation, though, in the budget. It's within the existing health budget, so it's not an extraordinary cost.
What kind of pesticides being used to treat the areas here in the city? And does it pose any danger to humans or
Right.
pets?
So the larvicide is actually a bacteria, and the bacteria ends up killing the mosquito in its development, and it doesn't cause any harm to animals or
Some of
pets.
the other areas in the cities have been some pesticide is being used or not?
The larvicides, the sprays, I'm not speaking towards the sprays, but and I'm not aware. All sprays are really checked to be sure that they're safe.
Are you guys gonna?
This is different than the spray
this is-
pesticide. The spray pesticide program is a different program. These are literally these dunks that go into standing water and treat just that water to stop the gestation of any mosquitoes.
Are you guys doing the same thing for like the buses, the LIRR being preventative in that regard?
Yes, exactly, agency by agency. So whatever that agency does, the Department of Health is working with them to go through what they do, find areas where the mosquitoes may be breeding in that context and address it.
Just to quickly touch on the LIRR, any updates on when it's ever gonna get better?
You say that with a note of cynicism, my dear.
I just talked to you 2 weeks ago about it, and we were real hopeful of getting it better. I was just speculating this weekend, so
I'm an optimist.
I'm trying to be too.
You should be. Thomas?
Someone who knew it was going to come my way. It was a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Someone who's run the railroad for 5 years, know very well its operational problems, things that are beyond its control, lightning strikes, storms, floods. Maybe the public has some sympathy for those, but self-inflicted wounds and inability to respond quickly are ones we really have to focus on. And then do whatever we can when those other factors occur to mitigate them. Because it does wear on people thin. The first half of this year, their performance was relatively well, but in a relatively short period of time, 5 or 6 weeks, it's had a repetitive series of incidents. We live by a mantra: you're only as good as your last snowstorm, you're only as good as your last rush hour. And that's something that's held near and dear not only to the management, but the customers as well. So we got to redouble our efforts on those self-inflicted wounds. And for the ones that are caused by other parties or by acts of God, we've got to mitigate and respond faster.
Let me also follow up on that, if I might. I often say that Tom is the toughest job in the state, period, in terms of public service, because it is massive, and we're moving more and more people than ever before, and the facilities are getting older, et cetera. And the main challenge is, when I responded to Erica's question, I believe one of the main frustrations with people in this country today is they have real problems, real issues, and they are frustrated by the incompetence of the government, or the apathy of the government, or the gridlock of the government. Any of the three. Washington gridlock, you go to do a construction project that takes forever, or you're just playing politics. We work very hard to do the exact opposite. Competence, performance, make it work, get it done faster, instill confidence in people that you are competent, right? So Bill Bratton, people were confident in his confidence when it came to policing, which frankly is the most important thing the city does for a lot of people. The MTA has made tremendous gains in that regard. New subways, new buses, $27 billion, largest capital plan in history, the most expansive plans to rebuild and reconstruct the entire system. One of the problems with the Long Island Railroad is at points there's only one track, literally one track. And something happens on that one track, everything stops. Well, how can that be that there's only one track? Because when they went to build a second and a third track, there was community opposition. and community opposition stopped everything. So you're operating a system with one track. Just think about it. One train gets stuck, one tree falls and goes across the track, one track breaks, everything stops. We are working aggressively on the second and the third track, which will then give us a redundancy that we don't now have. So sometimes structurally you are limited. And the Long Island Railroad, I believe, you are structurally limited. As long as there is only one track and you are subject to anything that happens on that one track, your reliability is going to be a problem. That's why we're pushing on the second and the third track, and we're getting the information to people on the other side, so it's not just the naysayers who rule the day. But that's one of the problems with the Long Island Railroad. But I hear your frustration. I hear your cynicism. More importantly, Chairman Prendergast hears it and feels it. And we are doing everything we can to address it. Have faith and hope. And I think if you look at the track record, you will see this is a government that performs competently. We get things done. We say we're going to get it done. We get it done. And we get it done on time, efficiently, and effectively. And you know what? That's 99% of it to me. Anything else?
The larvicide you're using in the subway system, is this the first time or have you
They have been, this is part of the MTA's general protocol, starting with the West Nile virus especially. Plus, you want to keep mosquitoes out of the subway system. But this is the most intensive effort that we have done, prompted by Zika.
So it's been done before, this type of larvicide?
I don't know if they've used this material.
The focus has been on rodenticide, which is rats. This is, I think, the first time with an aggressive approach to larvicide, because we're paying attention to the issue of stopping it, in its development.
Rodenticide. That's a word you don't hear every day.
Governor, the other week, transportation advocates tried to push the MTA to improve bus service in the city, which was in shedding ridership and over reliability issues. And some advocates I talked to tended to believe that top MTA brass and officials on the state level weren't pushing the MTA to improve bus service. Where do you think bus service fits in New York City, and what do you think it needs to be improved about it?
What do you say, top brass?
Well, the majority of the people we carry, 6 million people, are on the subway. 2.5 million people are carried on the bus system. Some people are far enough away from the subway that they actually need the bus system. And cross down to Manhattan, you need the bus system. So we've had very aggressive efforts with the last two administrations at the city, to New York City DOT, to ways we can improve traffic flow. The slowest traffic speeds in the Western Hemisphere are in Manhattan, 1.6, 2.6 miles an hour. So we need to be able to improve that. And we need to work with it with things like dedicated bus lanes, better bus lane enforcement, keyed traffic signals, things of that nature. And focus on areas where we know we need to improve the level of service. Because if we get the level of service up, I think the ridership issue in terms of it dropping will level off. So there's a high level commitment at the MTA and the New York City Transit and MTA bus to be able to improve that level of service.
All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you very much.